My name is Murad Korbaj. I am conducting this interview on behalf of Border Crossings and their project Checkpoint. To describe myself physically, I've got short dark hair, dark eyes, and I'm in my late 20s. I was born in 1997 in the UK. I'm conducting this interview with.
Hello, I am Salomón Bazbaz Lapidus. I am from Mexico. I'm in my late 50s. I was born in 67, and I'm very glad to share these experiences with you and with the great job that Border Crossing has been doing over the last 30 years.
Great, yeah, I'm also really excited to kind of get to know a little bit about what you have done over the past few years, Salomon, and about this project that Border Crossings have been doing that really involves politics and like everything that happens around the world, and they bring it into like a theatre setting. Um, I just wanted to start with asking you how what brought you to Border Crossings.
Well, I've been working in the last 30 years with indigenous people from Mexico. Um, I made a festival, a huge festival, which is called Cumbre Tajín, which put together the tradition with the contemporary arts. So in this, we had concerts, but we had also of very well-known artists. But it was a whole village surrounded by the Totonacan culture, which is a very living culture in Mexico. It's on the east of Mexico, and this culture has been survived through the arts. Uh, so it's a very artistic ethnic people. They have the pyramids, which is the pyramids of El Tajín, and surrounded to the pyramids we made a thematic park which became a school now and is the Center for Indigenous Arts, which is a school, new model of school, new model based on the elders of the Totonac people, in which the elders are the rulers, and they show to traditional teachers the arts, and they show it to the kids. So it's 16 different houses of tradition, of the language, of the food, traditional medicine, dances, music, pottery, painting, environment, and also there's a school for video, a school for cinema, in a school for in a radio station. They all are in Totonac, and this model was named by UNESCO the best practice for safeguarding the intangible cultural heritage. Okay, in this region of Mexico, there's also the Flyers of Papantla, it's called. It's the ritual ceremony of the Flyers. So that's the region where they have been more voladores. So in 2009, we put together all the voladores, and it's a ceremony that was taking places from Nicaragua to the north of Mexico. So we got all the voladores alive together, and we made a file for to be considered as intangible cultural heritage by UNESCO. This file got won this declaratory, and it became a World Heritage. So it's been a very interesting thing because I come from the practice, not from theory, and I come from working with the people, and now I have to learn the theory. So we learned the theory, and this festival became very big, and through a very good friend of mine, who has been making a lot of events in Great Britain. She got me together with Michael So the Voladores would go to London. So the Voladores went to London, and we celebrated there the solstice of summer with the Voladores flying, which is something really incredible. It was really amazing. It was, I don't remember very well what was the name of the place we did it, but it was something extraordinary. And through that, and we also gave talks and conferences around this ceremony, this cultural manifestation, and we became a good friendship with Michael Walding, and since then we started to do some uh, projects together till we made this project, which is the LATAMAT totem, which was on the pandemic time, and was a very, very, very incredible and satisfactory for us, and I think also a huge, huge, important cultural event in Great Britain, and a huge, enormous message for the Glasgow meeting of environment, you know.
Hmm. Yes, the COP26. No? You mentioned the ceremony was in 2009. Is that right? That was the first ceremony.
The no the ceremony was named the intangible cultural heritage in 2009. Then I think, I'm not sure, it was 2014 when we went to England, and we made this ceremony in the streets of London.
Hmm. And that was when you started being involved with border crossings. Was it around that year?
That's when we get involved with border crossings. It's a For this ceremony, it's really a very difficult way to travel, because we have to put a pole which is 15 meters, at least 15 meters tall, and you need all the permits and all the insurance and all. So it's not easy to travel. So then their border crossing and Michael made a huge effort with the authorities of England to make this happen. And I can tell it was something extraordinary. We did it first in London with border crossings, and then the Voladores went to Glastonbury Festival, which was also a magnificent uh, experience. And I'm talking about a magnificent experience not only cultural, it's also spiritual. In a way, these ceremonies for the indigenous people, and I think border crossing has shown it to Great Britain. The ritual art of the indigenous people, it's mostly spiritual. It's not a dance or a choreography, it's an invocation. It's not so it's really incredible how these spiritual ceremonies, they move the hearts of the people that have never seen that. Most of the people that was in London have never seen a ritual ceremony of voladores, but when they saw it, they became so sensible, and it's really a cathartic thing how they change once they leave, see and leave a ceremony of the voladores. And Michael got it right at that moment, and I think that that was really amazing for the people in England.
Did Was it the first time that this ceremony had happened outside of like Central America, South America?
No, voladores have been traveling all through the world since a long time ago. Well, since the 80s something, they were in the forum in Barcelona in 2004.
Mm.
They have been in Britain, they have been in Sweden, in Switzerland. They've been even in Russia and different parts. The important thing here was not only that they travel, they now they travel with a whole lot of sense about the importance of what they're doing, and it's very different and very important for them.
The Voladores, have you like what was their reaction to seeing the 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 people's reaction?
They were amazed because I mean the flying thing, it's a very it's very spectacular. So, but it's also very dangerous. So, people that see it, it's like they are very nervous that someone will fall down. So so people when they land, the people is like they feel like that, like great, no. For the voladores is great because it's people that never have seen that. And in Mexico, a lot of people have seen it, most of the people, so they don't get so amazed all the time. But when they did it in London, the people was really amazed, and so most of the voladores that went there were very young. We chose very young voladores, people that was studying in the universities or voladores that was in that stage. And it was like a prize to come. We get the best students and the best. So when they went, they were really amazed and really thankful because actually we were treated very very nice in England. So for them was also amazing because they felt like rock stars, like and it was really amazing. And in a way, they're very spiritual souls, so they also felt like they were doing some good spiritually cleansing the places that hadn't had a ceremony of this type ever.
This like flying object or this 15-meter pole, would you be able to describe that for somebody who's not seen it or not been there before? How would you describe something like this?
Well, this ritual ceremony of the voladores, it's a millennial ceremony which took part, I'd say, in Central America, in Mesoamerica, and it's a fertility ceremony in which they put a pole, 50, at least 15 meters, there are even for 40 meters tall, and five people get to the top. One is the caporal, the one that makes the music with a flute and a tambourine, and the other four are flyers. So they make a different kind of sones of music, spiritual music, and every place they take it, and so they go all up. They make a ritual for the cardinal points, and also for this heaven and for the earth. And then after that they start to fly around. They put some cords and they start to fly around the pole until they get down. And when they get down, they made another song of thanking, and then they get again, and then that is the ceremony. It's a fertility ceremony, which has been taking place for millennials.
I can imagine for the audience, it must have been incredibly different to what they've seen before. How long does the ceremony normally last?
Yeah, around 10-15 minutes, something
Hmm.
like that. It used to be make only in solstice and equinoxes, but now it takes part every day, because it and then there are different people that makes it. There are first the Totonac, but there's also the Nahuatl people, the Tenec people, the Masawa people do it, the Ñañú people, and even the Maya Quiches do it now. So it's spread. There are around I don't know, 15,000, no, 1,500 voladores in all the world, like it's not like it's a very special kind of people. And they're all indigenous, and they share this part of the voladores. And for them also, it was really amazing to be in England.
Hmm. And you said you chose specific voleadores for this project.
Since the declaratory of the voladores from UNESCO, there's a council for voladores. And this council has also a youth council, which makes all the people to get the youth. And it's very important because it's a different way of watching, of living with the world of indigenous people. Because before, a lot of people they used to say, no, they're indigenous, and let's keep them like in the United States in reservations. And we think totally different. We think, that, okay, they're voladores, but they should also have a career. They should also have all the opportunities that all the young people around the world have it. So most of the voladores that came to went to London were people that was were university people that was studying a career. A lot of them now are teachers, another or others work in agricultural projects. They all live in their communities, and all the money they get from these things they reinvest in their communities, and all the work that they do with the schools after they finish school they give it back to the community. So it's a virtuous circle. What we're working there.
So, from like, it sounds like these people kind of have grown up and their families have come from these communities, no?
Yeah, yeah,
They,
it's a thing that has passed from generation to generation.
yeah.
It's not like tomorrow I go and say I want to be a volador. It's not
Mm,
like that. It's a lineage.
hmm. Specifically from a certain like this like Central American region.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they mostly are in Papantla, in the Totonacapan. They used to be called, and they still call the voladores of Papantla. But since we realize that there are voladores everywhere, not everywhere, but in all these places I'm telling you, we
Yeah.
decide, and since in a way they were losing the spiritual values, that's why with all the voladores we made to be called the ritual ceremony of the voladores, not
Okay.
for only one place, but for everywhere.
Hmm. And back to like maybe border crossings. I guess like this project in 2014 kind of started your association with border crossings. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
That association, and we made that travel to here.
mhm. And you mentioned it was in London, and then you moved to did this a similar um, ceremony in Glastonbury.
Then after London, we went to Glastonbury.
Hmm.
And then after Glastonbury, since we made a poll, a moving poll, there was in the another ceremony which came a woman voladores, and that was for the Greenwich Festival. And that was also amazing because it was in the heart of the British Empire,
Mm.
in the barracks of the army in Green in Greenwich, and that's what I tell you. It was a really because it's a peace ceremony as well. So there were four Nawat women making a peace ceremony in the heart of the army of the British Empire. Was like
Mm.
really crazy, but it was very symbolic as well. Very symbolic, which was very good.
How did that? Do you think that affected the ceremony, having it somewhere like that?
I think it not only did affect the ceremony, it really moved the hearts of so many people, to watch them there and to see them there. It's because I'm telling you, this ceremony is really, I encourage everybody that's listening to us to go into YouTube or something and watch it, because it's really, really cathartic. The thing it's really a ceremony that works immediately, and everybody that has seen it or lived it gets immediately sensibilized about the importance of life and about the importance of the indigenous heritage in the world, because they are also kind of messengers for all this cosmovision, no?
Of course. This idea of like the importance of life and the importance of like the indigenous tradition. Um, like, could you expand on this further?
Uh, well, this I can talk a lot with Michael. Indigenous people have a huge tradition and a huge spiritual world, and a lot of times in Europe, you've lost it in some places, and because life, the globalization is so big, because it's not that people are not living in the forest or close to nature and everything. So in the indigenous part of Latin America, the spirit is still very, very alive and very fluent. So I think that in a way, a lot of people, and that can, you can tell about, like, all the tourists that come here to Mexico and get together with indigenous people, how life changes for them, how they have another perspective of things. And I think that's what border crossing is showing in Great Britain. They're bringing artists with a lineage artist with a very important spiritual background to show it to the and to share it with the British audience. And that thing, it really makes a change, because people get sensibilized about the importance of spirituality and about the importance that some people is still doing it in some other places, even though in not in all Europe, but there are still people doing it. So I think we are exporting spiritual meanings from Mexico and from other places in Latin America to Europe and to the world, because uh, spirituality in some places it go, I mean, it disappear, or it become part of the church or of the mosque or of the, but not part of the nature and the sacredness of every moment of our lives.
Hmm. For these people that were involved in the ceremony with you and who came with you, did you were you able to speak to them about how their experience was, like how the experience was for them?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we live it with them, so it was amazing for them. Really, it was amazing in a way. It was also saddening in some way, in a way that indigenous people have a lot of economical problems in Mexico and in the world. So it was a huge opportunity for them to see the world, to live in a. But it also they realize how different the world is from the first world to the third world, and how difficult, how can you, I mean, just to make you a thing, when we were young, when I was young, I could drink water from the sink in Mexico. So the first time I went to Europe, they sell the water. They were selling the water. It was the first. And I was like, how can they sell the water? It's a human right to drink water, you know?
Mhm.
Now, 30 years after, in Europe you can drink from the sink, and in Mexico we can't drink from the sink because it's contaminated.
Mhm.
So imagine these guys that have always been living in a community in which they don't have potable water, and they go to a huge city like London, and they can drink water from the sink. You know,
Mhm.
that thing it's really the changing, and they say why don't we have, you know, like,
Mhm.
and like that a thousand things. This is just a so it's the life in the first world is really different than in the third world, and they realize it. And there are good things and bad things in each one of them. So most of the voladores, most of the indigenous people live in a very poor situation in Mexico. So these travels, they open their lives, they open their souls, they open their hearts, and also give them an opportunity to have a better life, you know, in a way.
These people that were involved, these indigenous people that were involved, was it the same ones that were going to Glastonbury and going to Greenwich? Was it all one trip, or was this spread over a
No.
course of a few
They
years?
went first. The first time, they went to border crossings in London and then to Glastonbury. Then they went out, and there came four woman voladoras, girl
Hmm.
voladoras, which was very important because the show they made for Greenwich, it was based on the story of Frida Kahlo, the Mexican painter.
Hmm.
So it was all in the vertical theater, they called it. So it was a very feminine energy. It was totally different.
So generally, the voleadores traditionally are male. Is
Yeah,
that correct?
they're mostly male, and it's changed since the declaratory of UNESCO. I mean, there were woman voladores, but they were not accepted. And since this declaratory and the festivals, I remember there was in 2009 there was only one group of women, and we made an encounter last year, and there were more than 50 groups for women, which is for us extraordinary,
Hmm.
magnificent in a way, and it's equilibrating the things. Mexico is going through this. Mexico was a lot of the macho scene, and you know, but now we have a woman that is the president. We have a governor's woman. So now the rights for women in Mexico are working much more better than before.
Do you think this progression or this natural like evolving of the uh, ideas, the voleadores, do you have can you see it expanding in different ways, or do you have ideas of different kind of uh, approaches that it might take in the future?
Yeah, yeah, it's changing totally. Now they are totally, um, how to say, conscious of their rights, of their historical grand of their great historical importance, and now they're working. There are through the council there are schools for voladores. There are there are rights. They get help from the government. They get help from NGOs. So it's getting to be much more fair. We also managed to get scholarships for all of them to study, to have a career. Um, there are schools for voladores, so it's growing in a very healthy way because the council is also uh, very into the spiritual values of the voladores. And the voladores are people that are very, very healthy people, Murat. Very healthy. There has never been a heart attack from a voladores. Probably
Mm,
because they fly uh, backgrounds, like the head down. So the
mm,
change of the blood or anything, this study we still have to make. But they're
mm,
very healthy people and very healthy spiritually and physically. So, and they are in some way leaders in their communities. So,
mm.
or an example, and so it's growing very, very nice actually.
Um, that's nice. Well, it's good to hear that like they have support back home. Is this like a recent thing though?
Yeah, since from the last 15 years, they were totally forgotten. They were used only for their spectacularity. So the governments used them, but once we got together, once we made a safeguarding plan, which is very important, and the council. So there's a safeguarding plan for the next 50 years,
Mm,
which is made from the voladores. What we did was just to put some order and things, but what
mm.
we did is the voladores have all the proposals and things to make it happen.
You mentioned how taking the ceremony of the Voleadores to like a new space in London, and especially in like you said, like the center of the British Empire, the center of like the Imperial Empire, how this might have affected not only the ceremony itself, but the Voleadores who were involved in the ceremony. Like, what was their feeling
Ah,
whilst doing?
they first they have this feeling which is very strange because when they landed, they said, "Wow, they see something or they feel some things we don't feel." That's the truth. So they would say, "Oh, this place was very clean," or "This place was very needed a ceremony." No, so when we did it in London, they were like, "Wow, this place did need a ceremony." In Glastonbury, they felt very, very at ease because they did it in the sacred part of the stones and everything. And when they did it in the barracks, they were really tiring at the end. Really, and they said, "Puta, what happened here?" They were like, "What?" But for all of them, most of them have never left, not even their country, their communities. So imagine you come from an indigenous community in the center of Mexico, in Puebla. You've never gone to a city, and one day you get to go to London, one of the most cosmopolitan cities in the world,
Mhm,
in one way. The other thing is that a lot of them never got paid for flying. They were flying for ceremony or for their community, so they got paid, and and in uh, in sterling pounds, like it was amazing for them, and it really helped them. A lot of them from this trip they changed their houses. I mean, it's not a lot of money, but for a community in Mexico, it was a lot of money. On the other hand, they got once a lot of times you don't feel valued in your own town and you need to go out to get feeling valued. So they felt so valued when they did it in London. I can even say they came back 1 or 2 centimeters taller. Like everything changes. Uh, it's like and it's really strange. A lot of times, uh, when we were going to travel, they were asking me, "And how do we go and get dressed?" And I said, "With your traditional clothes, like." And they said, well, we get discriminated in our own community for use traditional clothes. And I was saying, go to London and see if you get. And it was really crazy because they were in their traditional clothes and they couldn't even walk in Oxford Street or something because everybody was stopping them to ask them for pictures or to sign something or so it's really different. And so at the end of the trip, they say, hey, we don't want to use traditional clothes anymore. And I was like, why? Do you feel? They said, no, we don't want nobody to take us picture and stop us. We want to be anonymous.
Hmm.
So that thing is, it really changes in when you're young to feel valuable for not only for what you do, but also for what you are. When they
Right.
have been discriminated all their lives with what they are, imagine how this trip changed their lives.
Yeah, I can imagine. And what you're saying there, I can imagine had an impact on them afterwards as well. Could you speak a little bit about how, like, going back to Mexico for them, what that experience would have been like?
Yeah, everybody was like waiting for them in the town, and they wanted to hear stories about what
Mm,
they live. And it was a crazy trip, all the trip. I mean, since we left in the plane, there was a lightning that hit the plane, and the light went out in the plane, and it was crazy. All the trip was crazy, like uh, we were in hotels, but then we were camping, and we the food. The truth is that I'm sorry to tell you, but the food in Great Britain mm, is not that good especially for Mexicans, which we
I
are
can imagine. I
very
imagine.
special way of eating. So also that was a change, and I know people like Michael was wanted to be generosity, and they said, hey, let's go to a Mexican restaurant. And for us, it was like, I mean, better than sausage and things. But it really changed. It makes them value the Mexican food in the
Hmm.
other way. So these trips are always very good to the spirit.
Of course. I can imagine that would have been very powerful for you and powerful for them to have lived that experience that would have been quite unique. Um, and uh, yeah, I mean, it sounds like just a very very powerful and cathartic experience, like you said, is like to do with this uh, tradition that's been passed down through like a very long period of time, and and yeah, I like what you've just described. I think gives a really really good impression, or like interesting insight into what they must have felt like. Um, what did working with border crossings mean to you specifically?
Well, at that moment was for me was very amazing too, because after that we made a trip with Michael. He showed me all what that border crossing is doing, and it was really impressive because border crossing is bringing all these high identities, this to a place where identity is getting lost. So to see border crossing, to see we saw Afghan people, we saw Asian indigenous people, we saw people from Australia. So it's like a embassy of indigenous people in in London. All the shows they made, and it's very very well curated, very intelligently curated. So it's an extraordinary work that they do, and a very important not only for the people in Great Britain, but for the people in the communities as well. I think it's amazing what border crossing is doing because it's a window, like I was telling you at the beginning, a window for the spirit to show the people that there is much more than the consumer crazy world that they live in the big cities like London. And when we did the LATAMAT, which we're going to be talk later, the TOTEM LATAMAT, we realized that there's a very, very need of the people in Great Britain for believing in something else, to have a richness in their spirituality, in their way of looking at life. So that's why the totem was so successful and so meaningful for all the people that got together with it. And I think border crossing in that thing is making an incredible job and a magnificent effort in which we don't see it immediately the results. What I'm talking to you now, it's 15, no, 12 years ago, or
Mm-hmm.
11, 12, and the echoes of the voladores are still in the communities, the voladores that went to England, and the echoes of the people that saw it are still alive. With the Totem Latamat, it became much more bigger, the message, and the echoes are still there. A lot of people still talking about it, and which is very incredible.
Could you speak a little bit, like maybe go into a little bit of detail of the Totem Latamat? It sounds really interesting.
As I told you, we kept a relationship with Michael. We talked each other. We call. We always wanted to do different projects and everything. So when the COVID pandemic started, it was a COP in Glasgow. What year it was? 20?
2021.
2021. So, as you know, the COP always have the COP, the official COP, which is where they talk and they don't decide anything, and the alternative COP, which is with the indigenous people of all over the world, the people that are the activists for climate change, the activists for a better environment. They all get outside the COPs, And traditionally, in all the COPs was a huge indigenous people councils and people that go to the outside. So this time it couldn't happen because the people could not travel, and the indigenous people could not travel. So Michael called me and we talk, and we decided to make this totem to have a presence of the indigenous people in the COP, but even though they could not go, you know. So we talked and we said, who can be the best Mexican artist, the best Totonac artist to do this? And we came together with Jun Tiburcio, which is a Totonac artist that lives in Chumatlan, Mexico, which is a town very, very far away in the mountains. And we asked him, we told him what was the project about, and he said, "Okay, I will make a totem." It's not that the Mexican indigenous people, it's very, it's they do a lot of totems. The totems go more in the North American indigenous people, but he made a totem, and he said, "Okay, but I'm gonna do it the right way." So what is the right way? To make a ceremony before cutting it, to ask permission for the land, to ask permission for the community, and to make this totem a participatory event from all the community. So we filmed that since the beginning, since the permission to the god of the forest, the way they cut it, it has to be ceremonial. The way they move it, it has to be ceremonial. So, and then Jun started with his magic to do it because he's an extraordinary actor. So every part of the extraordinary artist, every part, every single leaf, every single part of the wood had a meaning in that totem, you know. So we made it, and we show it to Michael. He was very excited, and and then the thing was to send it to to Great Britain.
Mhm.
So the best way to send it was by sea. So we made a ceremony so the so he can leave to the sea. And while the totem was traveling to London, to England, there was a huge hurricane in Mexico which destroyed Jun's house, the house of the artist that did it. So the whole meaning is he made a totem to sensibilize the people about climate change in Glasgow. But in his house, he was the victim of the climate change, you know. So the message started to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then Michael did some extraordinary magic because we thought at the beginning that was the totem will arrive and we'll go straight to Glasgow. But Michael made what he made was like how do you say, a tour for the totem. And this tour was amazing. I mean, he showed us the pictures and videos, and it was because every part that it stopped, it made it has his own life. The totem was
Mhm.
suddenly suddenly it was his own life. It was not the life of Juno. So the message also of an indigenous people guy in the mountains of Mexico sending a totem to, and then everywhere it stopped, they make a ceremony or a show or the kids' participation, or so it became a cult object by itself, you know, and that's
Mhm.
very important for us as because one of the things that I didn't mention to you when I was talking about the importance of the indigenous people is these cult images that they that we forget. We go to a church and we see the saint and we see the Christ and we don't ask ourselves who did it, you know.
Mhm.
And now it was like a cult image made by an indigenous guy who has never been to England and who has and make this important impact not only in the COP but in all the people that was there and that got together with this totem. Then Michael sent us the image in the COP and how the totem was the center of all the alternative COP, and it was really, really, really satisfying. And that's why we decided also to make the movie about it, and I think you've seen it,
Mhm.
Murat, probably,
Yes.
and all these efforts, and it's amazing and it's very valuable for us. Everything that has happened for the artist, for Hun, just imagine how important it was to not only to make
Mhm.
this piece of art to get paid
Mhm.
for that piece of art when he lost his house, you know.
Of course.
So that was a thing of how to say a cosmical equilibrium in a way.
Mhm. Did this idea of the ceremony almost in every stop of the way from London or up to Glasgow, it sounded like it had this real kind of impact everywhere it went, like you mentioned. Was this something that was planned before, or was it something that happened naturally?
It happened naturally. It was
Okay.
organically. Really, it was really. I mean, Michael had the idea. Michael
Yes.
had the contacts in every place, but every place was different. In some places was the school for kids, the one that was next to the totem. In other places were the street musicians that took the totem. In other places, I mean, it went into the circle stones in some way. I mean, which
Mm-hmm.
is, I mean, just imagine the importance of the symbol of having an indigenous symbol, an indigenous totem inside a circle stone. I mean, it's like uh, I will say like a spiritual conquest, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like like the other way around, you know, like 500 years again,
Mm-hmm.
because we used to have este, figures from the Europeans in the pyramids, and they were not very likely in a way, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
now, in the other way, it's like a spiritual conquer, you know, like
Yeah, there's a beautiful kind of comparison and similarity between the two, and to have it in the space of uh, the UK and bring something like totally new and totally kind of yeah, bring it to a new audience. I think is amazing, and it's lovely to hear that it happened naturally. That it was something that almost the totem brought with it when it came to the country.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Like I have always said that uh, when you made a work of art, the work of art has to succeed more than the author, you know.
hmm
This was exactly the case.
hmm
The author did not know, he only knew to, but the piece became a piece of cult, you know.
Do you know what happened to the totem since?
Well, they at the end of the story was that we left it there in Glasgow in the around. So last pictures I saw of the totem was full of it was laying flat and it was full of snow. So
Mm,
it was the message. It was like this comes from the earth and goes back to the earth. I mean, it's part of the message. I talk a lot about Michael about that. I was preferring that the totem stand still, but I understand exactly the message of having it like that. And 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 like I tell you, this is organical. I mean, it's not like
mm,
he one decide or the other one decide. I mean, all the ceremonies that were made were not how to say done before or how to say or planned. They all it happened, you know. So we
mm,
have to let it happen as well, you know.
of course. Um, is there so the totem? How tall roughly was the totem?
It was
Like,
like 4 meters, something like that.
and made out of which materials? Wood.
All wood, all wood coated with ceremony and well, wood and paint and other things that mostly organical things.
hmm
And it was especially made for that, so it was cut in two parts, so it can go in a it could travel, you know.
hmm
So it was made specially in a way that because if we put it all together, it won't be able to travel together. So Hun made it in a way that you can cut it and ensemble it back everywhere you go. It was a very easy way to do it.
Were you able to come and see the totem in the UK at that
No,
point?
at that time we couldn't travel. That's the
I,
amazing thing. There
of
was
course, yeah.
impossibility to travel, you know.
hmm
I just saw the totem in the community. I never saw it back again, you know.
Okay.
And who never saw it back again after it left here, you know.
Hmm. That's yeah. I can imagine. Yeah, that must have been an experience to see it go and never see it again. But to hear the stories that it has brought to other people, I can imagine brought a lot of joy to Horn and to yourself and
Yeah,
everybody else.
for it was like the truth that was some extra. I've been in a lot of cultural productions, and this has a special place in my heart because of all the meaning that has and all how it happened so organically and so nice and so meaningful. It was very very important for me. So
Hmm.
actually, after the totem, I've been in a couple of environmental festivals showing the picture, and it was everybody that sees it, the movie says they can't believe it that something like that happened. You know,
Hmm.
it's a really strange thing that happened.
Of course. Um, it's called the Totem Latamat. Is that right?
Yeah, Latamat.
What does Latamat mean, or does it have a
Life.
significance? Life.
Yeah.
Have you been back to? Have you done projects with crossing since then?
No, I haven't, and I'm thinking about. We're thinking about a probably project next year regarding the voladores as well. You know, and we're thinking about it. I have to talk to to Michael and see what's the best way to do it. You know.
Hmm.
So I hope we can do something soon.
Hmm.
For us, at that time it was well. Michael is a magician to get the resources and things like that. Uh, when we did the Voladores first, it was the year with this year with Great Britain and Mexico. They got together and they made a lot of events. So
Hmm.
we had resources from the government of Mexico and from England.
Hmm.
Now it's changed the things, and we hope we can get resources and still working with border crossings. We can do something with the voladores. I've been working a lot with the brothery and
Hmm.
with the Mayan people now, and I think there's a lot of opportunities there as well because it's as there's like a thing. It's really crazy that once you travel, it's like now I'm thinking about the Mayan people, which in a way there was this, how to say, this discourse that the Mayan have disappeared or
Hmm.
extraterrestrials left, and it's so stupid things. And here there are more than 2 million people Mayas that speak Maya, that live Maya. So through history, like the Maya of stone has been more valued than the Maya of flesh, you know.
Hmm.
And one of our works is that to change that, to change the indigenous of stone. The museum are full, the British are, it's full of pieces of indigenous people, of
Hmm.
civilization that they said that it's an old civilization, but that doesn't mean that the actual indigenous have their rights and are living well, you know. So it's a lot of work to do still to get valued for the indigenous people in the 25th century, their importance for the planet and and the value of what they do and what they are. You know?
Have you been like you mentioned that it was 12 years ago really that this like kind of collaboration first started? Have you been in contact with the Voladores that you were with 12 years ago? Were you still in contact with them?
Ah,
Do
yes,
you know?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm still part of the council. We
Hmm.
get together every year. We go together now in September because there's a encounter for all the voladores. And that's
Hmm.
what I'm telling you, that it was amazing because there were many groups of women, which I enjoy. Both the voladores that went to London, which now are fathers, or which now have, one of them is a director of a school, of a
Hmm.
rural school, and have two kids. The other one is the he makes agricultural things and has his own ranch, and he has two kids. All these guys are still there, part
Hmm.
of the council of the voladores, but now they're the next, the old generation. Now it's coming the new generation.
Of course. But it sounds like there's like you mentioned there's like a school, but they're still kind of there. Like a lot of them are teachers. Have become
Yeah,
teachers.
yeah, they're much prepared and much conscious of their historical importance now that they were before, and much less discrimination, totally less discrimination, and and all this work and all this way of doing it, it's becoming a model uh, for other cultural manifestations indigenous, of how can we work out, recover all the values, and make it contemporary and actual without losing the essence and without losing the importance of their work.
Hmm. Um, you mentioned when you came to the UK and you saw the work the border crossings were doing with other indigenous communities around the world. Was there anything uh, like you took away from that experience of being in close contact with other communities and other indigenous communities around the world? Was there any inspiration or anything that you can see?
Yeah, I think border crossing is an inspiration that it should happen in every country of the first world. Really, it's a magnificent work, and it has built bridges of of spiritual bridges, but also bridges of understanding between the different places. Uh, what I'm telling you about our experience, if we wouldn't have had work with border crossings, a lot of people in London would never understand the importance of the indigenous people in Mexico. In the same way, like border crossing is doing, it happens with the Islamic world, with the African world, with the Asian world, and with the indigenous world. In a way, Britain, for the ages, has become the center of the universe. Of you have made it the center of the universe, and all the cultures go there. So what border crossing is doing is most important. It's the most important things in cultural, because it builds its bridges. It lowers down this ephemeral art that is only consumption, and it opens a new opportunity of watching and knowing a much profound art, a much profound cosmovision of reality that that have these millenarian cultures, and how they have echoes in our contemporary world, you know.
I can definitely see how like one thing leads on to the next, and like this kind of the the working, yeah, just like this contact with these different communities inevitably will affect the way this moves forward. Um, we're like approaching the end of our interview, but I was wondering if there's anything else you'd like to like touch on or speak about before we finish.
No, I want to congratulate Michael and Border Crossings, and I hope they can still do these things. Uh, I think that now is more important than ever. We live in a world that's getting polarized, really polarized, and with the new things that happening in the United States and their vision of being the leaders of the world, and this to get sensibilized around the importance of the cultures of the third world, the importance of the culture of the indigenous people cultures, the importance of the spirituality, of getting together with nature, of working with the people and not only with machines, and of knowing different kinds of reality that live through the world, and to share this knowledge and this lineage with other people is the I think in this world is one of the most important things, because if not, we will go to where we're going, we're gonna lose all the values that have been built in this world for the last 10,000 years, and we will lose it in 1 minute, So border crossing is is a very important project, cathartical project for most of the people that have shared with, and its importance is more now than ever, because if we can sensibilize the people in Great Britain about the importance of the indigenous cultures, we will make a great step forward for equilibrium, not only economical but spiritual as well.